Learn English through stories.
Real talk, real growth, one story at a time.
Hey everyone, it's Daniel, and we're diving deeper into our American adventure with the topic nobody really warns you about properly: culture shock.
Sophie here, and let's be honest, when people say culture shock, you expect big, obvious differences. But the real shock comes from tiny, everyday things that make you feel like you're from another planet.
So true. I thought culture shock would be about major things like food or holidays, but it was actually small stuff like people wearing shoes inside their houses, or cashiers bagging your groceries for you, or strangers smiling at you on the street for no reason.
Yes, the smiling thing confused me so much. Back home, if a stranger smiled at me, I would think, do I know this person? Did I forget meeting them? But Americans just smile at everyone. I spent weeks worrying that I was being rude by not recognizing people.
And the small talk with strangers, elevator conversations, chatting while waiting in line, talking to people at bus stops. In my culture, we mind our own business in public. Suddenly, everyone wants to discuss the weather with me.
Right. And at first, you think, how nice. Americans are so friendly. But then you realize they're not actually interested in becoming your best friend. It's just social politeness. Learning the difference between American friendliness and actual friendship was confusing.
Another thing that shocked me, how much Americans apologize for things that aren't their fault. Someone bumps into you and they say sorry. You bump into them, they still say sorry. I thought I was constantly hurting people's feelings somehow.
Oh my goodness, yes. And the opposite too. Americans are so direct about some things that seemed rude to me at first. Like a cashier would say, next, instead of, excuse me, sir, when you're ready. I thought they were angry at me.
The directness was hard to adjust to. Back home, we use lots of polite language to soften requests. Americans just say, can you move your car, instead of, I'm so sorry to bother you, but if it's possible, could you perhaps consider moving your car?
And restaurant culture. In my country, sitting in a restaurant means relaxing, maybe for hours. But American servers keep checking on you every 5 minutes, asking if everything's okay, bringing the check before you ask. I thought they wanted me to leave quickly.
Yes, I didn't understand that frequent check-ins are good service, not rushing you out, and tipping culture. Nobody explained that servers depend on tips for their income. I was accidentally being really rude for weeks without knowing it.
The tipping stress was real. How much, when, who gets tips, who doesn't. I overtipped some people and undertipped others. I felt like I needed a manual for every social interaction.
And personal space boundaries are so different. Americans stand farther apart when talking compared to my culture. I kept stepping closer during conversations, and people kept stepping back. I thought they didn't like me, but I was just invading their comfort zone.
That's such a perfect example of invisible cultural rules. And what about the way Americans ask, how are you? Daniel, remember how we talked about this in our first week episode? But living through it daily was even weirder than we described.
So true. Store employees, bank workers, random people, everyone asks, how are you? But they don't want real answers. I kept giving detailed responses about my actual day until I learned it's basically just another way of saying hello.
And Americans are so positive in their language. Everything is awesome, amazing, fantastic. Coming from a culture where we're more neutral in our expressions, I thought every day in America was the best day of everyone's life.
Right, I had to recalibrate what words actually mean. When an American says something is pretty good, it might mean the same as what I would call excellent. When they say not bad, it usually means quite good. And the work culture differences were huge for me. Americans eat lunch at their desks, work late without complaining, check emails on weekends. I came from a culture with stronger work-life boundaries, so I felt lazy compared to my coworkers.
Yes, and meeting culture. Americans love meetings, have meetings about meetings, schedule everything in advance. In my previous job, we would just walk over and talk to people when we needed something. Suddenly, everything needed to be put on the calendar.
What about dating culture? That was a shock too. Americans date multiple people at the same time until they decide to be exclusive. In my culture, if you're dating someone, that's it, you're together. I had some very confusing romantic situations.
Dating apps, casual dating versus exclusive, there's a whole vocabulary and system that nobody explains to international people. And everyone acts like these rules are obvious and universal.
And holiday culture. Americans make such a big deal about holidays I'd never heard of. Groundhog Day, President's Day, Memorial Day versus Veterans Day. I couldn't keep track of what to care about when.
Halloween was the biggest shock from all. Adults dressing up in costumes, going to work in Halloween outfits, decorating houses like horror movies. I thought Americans had lost their minds for one day every year.
But you know what I learned? These cultural differences aren't right or wrong. They're just different. American directness isn't rude, it's efficient. American friendliness isn't fake, it's social oil that makes daily interactions smoother.
Exactly. And once you stop judging the differences and start understanding the reasons behind them, life becomes much easier. American small talk isn't meaningless. It's a way of acknowledging other people's humanity in brief encounters.
And here's something beautiful. Going through culture shock makes you more aware of your own cultural assumptions. You realize that ways of doing things that seemed normal to you are actually just one option among many.
So true. I became more flexible and open-minded about different ways of living. And when I went back to visit my home country, I saw my own culture with new eyes, noticing things I had never paid attention to before.
The hardest part of culture shock isn't the big dramatic moments. It's the daily accumulation of small confusions that make you feel like you don't understand anything about how to be a normal human being in this new place.
But here's what I wish someone had told me. Culture shock is temporary, and it means you're growing. Every moment of confusion is your brain expanding to include new ways of understanding the world.
And next episode, we're going to talk about all the things we wish we had known before making this move. Because now that we've survived the culture shock, we have some serious wisdom to share with future expats.
That's going to be such a valuable conversation. All the practical and emotional preparation that would have made this journey easier. The stuff nobody thinks to tell you before you move abroad.
Now, let's give you some phrases for navigating cultural confusion gracefully, plus strategies for staying emotionally balanced when everything around you feels strange and unfamiliar.
Remember, culture shock doesn't mean you're weak or unprepared. It means you're human and you're adapting to a completely different way of life. Give yourself credit for being brave enough to live this adventure.